Hi, welcome to another episode of I Mustache You Something. I've got my father, not our father, my father, not just Abouna, abouya, Guirguis, and it's uh, I didn't think he would say no, but I'm still glad that he's still willing to do this, even though I've been torturing him for maybe not 40 years. I've been torturing my own parents for 40 years. Abuna, when did you come to Long Island? 1991?
92.
92. Okay. So you got an extra year break from me. Uh, so it's only been, what, 38 years? That's not so bad. 38 years.
28.
Oh, yeah, 20. Sorry, my math isn't very good.
Yeah, it's good that
Yeah.
I even noticed that. Good.
Yeah. See, I told you you're going to be good. It's perfect. So one thing that first of all, this is one of many opportunities that I must take to thank you publicly for putting up with me, and to express my surprise that you were able to. Uh, so one of the questions that's come up a lot in these conversations with people is relationships between people in leadership, and not necessarily clergy, but like elder people in the community and the youth. Um, and I mean, this is a fact. This isn't me being nice. This isn't being an appreciative son. Like, I drove you crazy, and I probably still do. Hopefully, a little bit less now than before. But can you talk about that a little bit, like how? And I'm gonna get into some specific stories because I think they're funny and they're gonna bring your blood pressure up, which is um, I'm going to say also funny. But in general, let's start with just general. How has it been in your experience dealing with the youth and the challenges, and still being so supportive as you have been?
I think one of the problems we have, let me talk from a church leadership point of view. It would be more in my area. I think that people stopped reading the Bible as it is. Like, we go to the Bible already with a lot of understanding and with a lot of ideas, so that even if we see something in the Bible that's opposite to what we're thinking, we might not see it. We might see it like it's approving what I'm doing. But since we're talking about me in the Coptic Church as a priest, and I was ordained when I was only 27 years old, I saw that clearly from the beginning, from my side, the behavior of Jesus Christ. And I'm not saying in any way that I even come like even a bit close to his behavior, but I'm saying from that point of view, from that point of how to deal with people. And I don't know where did we get the idea of being separated from the people and being in a special place. I don't see that at all in the Bible. I see Christ moving among the crowds. I see him acting with the children, with the young people, with the elders, with those who agree, with those who disagree, with the sinners, with the righteous. I see simplicity. I see it very, very easygoing. And when I was ordained, that was a big problem, because I didn't change. Actually, I didn't change in my way of acting with people before and after. And I hope I didn't change till now. I changed because of my age changing and my understanding of things changing, but not in that area specifically. When I was ordained, it was a big problem in and the environment around me, because I wasn't looking like a priest. I wasn't behaving like what the people are used to from priests. So it was easy for the people who knew me before because they felt very comfortable. It wasn't easy for people who didn't know me before because they were a little bit taken by the way I'm dealing with them. And it was taken very, I want to choose the word roughly, or by the clergy, because it's in the church I was ordained in, because it looked like either they are very bad or I'm very bad. Like even I'm very loose, or they are very strict, or we can't be like doing the same job in the same area with that two different way of thinking, dealing with people. Like you know me from the beginning, I don't like always look like the traditional priest, the way I wear the imma all the time, the way I put my hand for people, because I never do that, and I never did it since I was ordained. And I completely refuse for the people to treat me in a different way. Like I'm carrying my bag. If somebody comes to take the bag from me, I will never, I don't feel comfortable at all doing that. So that was at that time in Egypt was a big deal. Not because they are bad or I'm good, not at all. It's just like the people have for a very long time accumulated the experience of how the clergy and the priest or the bishop look like, behave like. And I'm not saying they're wrong at all. I mean, don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to judge anyone. I'm just saying I was naive. I was not an insider. My life out before being ordained as a priest was mostly out of the church, not in the church. Even when I used to serve, it was part of many other things I was doing in my life, including playing sports and working and having relationship with a lot of people around from different backgrounds. My way of thinking, so it didn't change. So to bring all that in was not easy. It was very comfortable for the people who needed it, like the people who are not accepted very much in the church for different reasons, or they have a stigma of who they are. But it wasn't comfortable for traditional churchgoers or people who are in the clergy at the beginning.
And you think that's changed? Do you think that people that are potentially stigmatized are potentially less stigmatized now than they were?
Mina, it's very difficult to answer questions like this because you have to be specific. Like we're talking about whom, where, when. Generally, I would say things are better. Generally, but it's very different from one clergy to the other. It's very different from one church to the other. It's very different now than 10 years before. It's, when we say it's not fair to judge the church as one unit or to judge the behavior of clergy as one clergy. Whether it's good or very good, I'm not saying good or bad even.
Very good. That's very good. Okay, so let's take a specific example. And I brought this up before. I think maybe it was it wasn't me. It was Ralph that brought it up himself, because I said the same sort of thing. Like, how are we doing in terms of engaging the youth and people that could feel that they're marginalized? And he brought up a great example, which I think takes into consideration lots of different issues that come up. And his scenario was the girl who shows up to church unmarried, pregnant. And I think that we have issues in how we respond to people that have even in their own eyes, not necessarily done everything that they should, and there's some space for repentance there, but it just happens to be public. We have issues in terms of how we approach sexuality, and in terms of how we tell our young people no sex, no this, no, 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 and then they reach a certain age, and then okay, why aren't you married? So there's lots of room for education in terms of what healthy sexuality is, and there's lots of room for education in terms of okay, Meshi, like you made a mistake too, right? Like how are you going to treat this person? But in that specific instance, you can pick any congregation you want, but I think that young girl is going to have trouble, and I think regardless of how progressive the congregation is, no matter how accepting the priest is, no matter how welcoming people are in general, I think we're still not there yet, where that person feels comfortable and doesn't feel that they're a certain type of outcast. So if we're going to get into specifics, I think that's not just a specific example, but an indicator of a larger community response.
When you say we, I again don't understand who are we. And I've seen different situations, not exactly the same scenario, where people were not at all harsh, or they have an understanding, maybe because for so long we've been stressing on the idea of not judging the other. And I think if there is one thing I've said more than anything else in the last 28 years, it would be it's completely wrong to judge anyone else. So I think people in my area, at least, I'm not saying they are not, but I'm saying they are moderate. They accept things. But I want to say sometimes it's not only the people, sometimes the person himself. The person himself is not comfortable. And he's not comfortable, or she's not comfortable, because they know that there is something that doesn't fit. Not because of the judgment of the people, not because of how Abouna is dealing with them. Of course, these are important, but sometimes the discomfort comes from the person himself projecting the idea that people are going to not accept him. Because definitely there is something that doesn't fit with the Bible teachings. But for me, as soon as I see somebody in a weak spot, the first thing that comes to my mind is how to help and where to lead him to. I'm not taken by the negative act, whatever it is, from a spiritual point of view. I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. I'm not. It doesn't affect me very much to know, like, yeah, I want to tell you that I'm pregnant and I'm 16, or it doesn't give me difficulty to understand how this happened, why did it happen. I have no problem with that, because again, I'm focused more on the person and on where to lead him, not where did he come from. The second thing is, one of the things that I think maybe played a part in my service is, as I told you, that I was not an insider before being a priest, which made me exposed to real life. And there are so many things in real life that are like that. Wow, it's not shocking. I've not been living in a bubble all my life, and anything out of that bubble for me is like shocking. I understand. And number three is I have enough weakness in myself. That's, I would say this is, I take it as a plus, I don't take it as a minus. As St. Paul said, I'm weak, therefore I'm strong. My weakness protects me from looking to others in a judgmental way, because I have enough in my plate myself. I really cannot look to people in that way. I don't even understand how others can do it, but maybe they are so good. Maybe they are not from real life. Maybe they had been all their life living in a perfection or in a perfect environment. But most people are not.
So this is all something I'm familiar with because I've been hearing this from you for 28 years. We concluded. Um, I don't. First of all, I don't think it's common, and I'm surprised. And I haven't been in Long Island, regularly. I haven't prayed there regularly since what 2006. So I can't believe that's 14 years.
Wow.
It doesn't feel like that. It feels like I'm still running around downstairs harassing people. Actually, downstairs isn't even the car anymore. It's been a church for I don't know how long. So I I I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that there's less likely to be a environment of judgment of looking and whispering and distancing.
To be honest, there might be, but it doesn't last. Yeah, in my experience and where I'm serving, even if anything like different or something that would be easily judged as wrong, it won't take more than a day or two. But we don't stay there. Yani either because people are very busy or the fast rhythm of life, or I don't know, or maybe because they rethink that's not right. This is the not right act to do. Yani just to be fair, yani sometimes there is judgment, but it doesn't last. A lot of people were scared to come to church after divorce or after things like that. And I keep telling, trust me, if you just can take it for a week, after that week, nothing. And it happened.
So let's say there's another parish somewhere that doesn't have that environment. And let's say that it's unlikely that this message is coming from the top, hypothetically. And there's an individual or a group or what have you that feels that they are being ostracized, feeling neglected. And I mean, we know this happens all the time. People say, "Well, I'm either going to go pray somewhere else," or they think of God the same way that they think of their community, and they say, "I don't believe in God." And what they really mean is, I don't believe in this God, this judgmental icon of God that I see in these people, and a God that doesn't accept me. I don't accept this God, and I'm leaving. Um, is there hope for that community, or do we have to wait for another generation to disappear from the church before we recognize that this kind of environment is more likely to encourage people to stay and be healed and be transformed in the life of the church?
And a very difficult question for me to answer, Amina, because as soon as I answer, it means that I'm judging that this behavior or of that clergy or that church is. I'm not in that position, but I would say that I wish that people return back to the simple reading of the Bible. let's go more a little bit into that. The problem is, because of the many lectures and many meetings and many retreats, and now the many online lectures and sermons, and people are trying to get out of the Bible things that are not there. Like, if I have to, like, for the last like few years, I'm trying my best not to give a sermon or to do a Bible study or to give a speech. I'm trying my best. يعني, I have to, but I'm doing the minimum I can. Because it's becoming like addiction. People listen too much. And speakers now have really difficulty to find something to talk about that's different than what people are listening to. So they try to get out of the Bible things more than the Bible is really saying. And I think this is a big problem. By time, everybody try to be unique, try to make his own style. I think reading the Bible as it is, we miss reading the Bible the simple way, the easy way. And you're going to be surprised that the story is very simple. And the basics are very clear. And I wish that we can go back just to the basics. It's too much contemplation, too much ta'ammul, too much getting from the story things that are not even in the story. So go to the simple thing, which is like figure Jesus Christ. Go to the Bible and see him as he is. Because now I think, like, honestly, if Christ as he was is going to come to the church, I don't think people are going to accept him. Because he's too simple. And we have complicated things too much. His wa'azah might be, I would say, oh, Abouna Flan has a better wa'azah than this. Or I can say, لا مش معنى إنه هو he loves the people that he talks like this with people, or he sits like this with the sinners, or he wears that kind of clothes, or he stands with all kinds of people from different backgrounds. So we lost the simplicity of them, because by time the church becomes an institution, becomes like and becomes like regulations, and becomes like systems, which this is the nature of things, and then becomes like the details of the details. And sometimes we go so far from the center, from the base, from the core, that we even forget the core itself. And I think the equation is how to keep focusing on the core while growing, and while developing, and while expanding. And it's not an easy thing. I give, with all the respect, I give all the credit for the Coptic Church for surviving 2,000 years and still giving a strong spiritual message. I know that a lot of people would see a lot of negatives, and I'm one of the few people that are willing to say, yes, there are negatives. I have no problem saying that. Yes, there are mistakes, there are negatives, and I know that this might not be a happy moment for some people who think that we are perfect. I'm sorry to say, there is no one who's perfect. The disciples were not perfect, the apostles were not perfect. There were a lot of mistakes at all times. But be fair, with all these mistakes, there were always spiritual fathers and spiritual direction that made the church survive among tons of challenges. And yes, we have to keep fixing things, and yes, we have to take responsibility for negatives and start to do the right thing. I think this is the only way to survive. The two extremes of we're perfect, the church never does mistakes, or the other extreme of everything in the church is wrong. These are two extremes, and they are not fair. So I see it like that. I'm not going to talk about another church where things are different, but generally, this is how I see it.
I think one thing that when you say regulations and when you embrace imperfection, I think there's a general sentiment that it's problematic when someone in a position of authority is more critical of the people that they are supposed to be leading / serving than they are of themselves and their institution. So if
why is it so difficult to understand that we are humans and humans are not perfect and we do mistakes? I don't understand even the concept. What's wrong with saying that decision was wrong? Yes, we were doing this thinking it's the best idea ever, but maybe we need to sit and find like maybe it's not the best idea. There is nothing wrong. The idea is that my main problem is, and I think this is the biggest challenge. We made holy of things that are not holy. And that's a tendency in the people. Not only in the institution, but even for the people. You know, the people like heroes, they like saints. So we made holy not on the principle that is holy or the core that is Christ, but we made holy of the details of the details. And that it shouldn't even be a sensitive issue to discuss details and say if they are right or wrong, or maybe there are better choices, or maybe there are modern choices. The confusion between orthodoxy and stagnation is very important. Orthodoxy doesn't mean stagnant. It doesn't mean static. It's static when it comes to the core beliefs, not on the application, not on the way we apply things and we practice. So, but I want to tell this is one of the, because we made and we accepted and we as clergy, we should not accept that to agree with the people on this, because maybe it's going to help us for now, but it's not going to help us in the long run.
Can you tell us more about that? Because I think you're hitting on a very important issue, which is the short term versus long term.
Making holy of everything will scare people and make them more respectful and more submissive and more followers. But you're going to lose everybody with a mind, everybody with a brain, everybody with education. Like, you cannot do that. Yeah, you cannot play that game of saying, oh, yeah, we reach a point. It's sad sometimes. Like, I ask people sometimes, like, I always say that because it's funny in a way, but it's sad in a way. Like one time, people going into the communion, a little child just like came running from the back and he entered and he wants to take communion. Child, like 4 years, 5 years. Funny and very simple. It's a child. And suddenly I found like one of the ladies, like almost a superwoman. She was flying. Why she was flying? Because this boy was entering, not even into the altar, into the side altar, which is not an altar, wearing the shoes and taking communion. And she was like flying and carrying the child and giving him the lecture of تقلع جزمة وفين مامته دهيت. And it took me like, يعني, I kept thinking, like, didn't we read the Bible? Like, and I think like nobody disagrees. Yani, most people don't disagree with the idea that he has to take the shoes off. But did anybody even think like, why does he have the child to take the shoes off? And I said, leave him. And I insisted on giving him communion because I wanted to make a point. The shoes that we leave outside is the negative in us. It's the sins. It's the old nature. We leave it outside and we enter to have a new start. It's not like after having communion, you're going to wear your shoes. You already took Christ. Are you going to stay without your shoes for how long? Like if wearing your shoes and having Christ in you doesn't, but nobody thinks this is symbolic to the idea before entering to have communion, leave your sins behind, leave the old nature behind, be ready to wear something new. It's symbolic. It's not because what happens, you just took the communion and you wear your shoes. Did it go away? Did the communion go away? It's still in you. So it's not about wearing shoes is a sin. It was made in a way to tell people, beware, you're taking something serious. Are you ready? So I said to that woman, I said to the people, actually, there were a lot of people there. I made it in a nice way, not to embarrass her. You know, the shoes, the real shoes is here. And I don't think we left it outside. It's not the shoes and the foot of that child. Actually, if there is anyone who's allowed to take communion without like restriction, it would be the child. This child is very pure. Did we take away that mentality out before going and receiving the communion? It seems we did not. Because we didn't look into the core, we looked into the details of the details. The child was wearing shoes. And I'm not saying in any way it's okay to wear shoes, by the way, so that I don't go into other dialogue. I'm not saying it's okay to wear your shoes and have communion. But did you ask yourself, why did we take the shoes off? And you will say, this is a holy place. And what about the other places? It's not holy. Why out of that room it's not holy in this room? Because the altar, it's not even an altar. And what's about the real altar? You want to make the altar more important than the Christ you took in communion? Like you would say, oh, this is the altar. Okay, the altar is important because we put the body of Christ on it. We don't worship marble. We don't worship marble. This is very important because we put the communion on. So if you take the communion, you're an altar. Aren't you the altars of God, the temple of God? So this is really missing. The missing thing is, let's keep all the traditions, let's keep all the details we have, but always put the core first. Then the details will make sense. If you start with the details, you're losing the core. Why I'm fasting? Why I'm doing this? Why shouldn't I do this? More important than how shouldn't I do it? The way, the details. You know me by now. I'm trying to teach that from the beginning, and I'm still focused on that all the time. It might be misunderstood by some people. خلاص بقى أنا كبرت. I don't care too much if they misunderstand it. Because I'm not against anything that we do in the church. I'm against doing it without putting it where it belongs.
So let me ask you this, because I think this this is something that I'm thinking about now, because I am 100% in support and in favor of someone who feels that they are marginalized for us to do a better job. And then I'm thinking about what you're saying, and if I'm in charge of the communion line and somebody's not in line, I'm going to be the first person to be like, شو قلنا ايه روح دورك مش عارف ايه. So now I'm thinking of it, I'm like, okay, like I don't think the answer is let people do whatever they want, right? Because you're not saying like put your shoes on and go in the altar. And I'm not saying that the goal is to be mean about it and to be like, oh, you got to take your turn. but I'll be honest with you, people are frustrating sometimes. And, I've really been very grateful with the whole COVID thing, that someone else is responsible for, maintaining the order, and I go and I just attend church to pray liturgy, and, I'm no longer the person responsible for the organization or what have you. But I'm thinking about this, and I'm sympathetic to clergy and bishops and people that, not just for the silly communion line and for that being in order, but they feel responsible for the people and their spiritual well-being. So is there a way to find that balance where we're enforcing the shoes and the communion line and certain things that maintain order in our community, while at the same time not losing our relationships with people?
I think that number one is to put things in order. What's most important, what's less important, what's not important. Like, you have to put them in order. Because if you lose one, which is the most important, which is the core, there is no meaning for anything else. So if you understand one, which is the core, which if the people understand it, because I'm focusing on that as a servant or as a leader, and I'm explaining this 1 and 2 and 100 times and 1,000 times, it's going to be easy to say it in a very calm way, number two, and I think it's going to be more accepted. There is no need at all to shout in the church or to make discipline policing in church. It's not. Yani, it's like a father hitting his child and telling him calm down. It's one of the funny things I always figure also, right? Like a mother taking her child because he was crying and then hitting him and telling him, don't cry. And if he wasn't crying, he would cry. Like, well, this is never a way to stop crying. So, solving problems is by focusing more on the core. Then on teaching on discipline and things like that, but with a smiley face, with love. With love.
Mm.
Sometimes, rarely, you have to be a little bit serious. I won't call it harsh, but serious. You have to be very serious sometimes. Yes, but I find it rarely. I've been now 34 years, and I can, very rarely when I like shout for the sake of discipline. It's I don't remember that happening a lot. Very few times, and it has to be really very bad for me to reach that
I
point.
only remember 2 times.
Okay.
One time when Bishoy was sitting in the parking lot honking the horn.
Okay.
He wanted to leave and you were taking too long, so he was just honking the horn until you came outside and you were yelling. And the second time was when we had a retreat with a bishop and a band, and
Okay.
one of my friends who is currently a priest in the Coptic Church, not someone who like one of those lost youth, and no, he's a priest in the Coptic Church. Said, hey, let's go get the symbols on the triangle, and let's go play with the band. And I had the symbols, and he had the triangle, and then he disappeared on me, and he's not part of this story anymore.
I hope you don't mention what kind of song was it. What was the song?
The song was "I'll Be There." I'll be there, which is it might as well be Jesus speaking to us saying, "I'll be there."
No. There was another.
It was borderline a Christian song. It was like Teranim almost.
There was another song.
No, I didn't play. I would never play with a song like that. The song that I was playing with was "I'll Be There." I was just singing hymns with the band.
Okay.
And the bishop who I mean, you know, can identify himself if he'd like, pointed to me and said, "Come here now." And, you know, I got some words, and then the bishop leaves. And then, do you remember what you did?
I don't remember the details, but I can imagine.
I've never, not before that, not since that, I've never heard you yell at somebody like that. What were you thinking؟ انت بتعمل ايه؟ انا قاعد جنب الاسقف ويسالني مش ده من واحد من بتوعك. اه على فكره يا سيدنا هو اللي عمل القربان النهارده. I've never ever heard you yell at somebody like that. And I was so I wasn't even upset. I was like, you're right. You're 100% right. Like I don't know what to say. You're right.
But you have to say that it doesn't last. يعني if I reach that level, I don't leave myself to carry it on.
Honestly, like I didn't even I wasn't sure. I still don't know right now. I don't know if you were yelling because you were actually upset or you were yelling because like no, I mean, he needs to get yelled at. Like there's no way that you do this and then you just walk away. Like you have to get like
يعني
just the principle.
if I remember that day we had a mass and you did the Urbaya, you were one of the deacons.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine like you were يعني taking the symbols and doing with the band. It was you have to say that sometimes you exceed my imagination.
I mean, there are things. So Mira Riyadh was also on the show, and the things that Mira and I did to you, and like I don't even know how you contained yourself. Like the things that we would do, and then you would walk in and just be like, and we'd be like, uh, and you'd go, okay. And that's it. Like that would be the entire interaction, and we'd be like, what were we thinking? Like, oh, we definitely. Why didn't we get yelled at? I don't know.
You know what? I have tolerance. I have no problem. My only worry sometimes is already we're passing many lines that are not easy for people to accept. So I feel there is, when it's too much, it might destroy the good things we are doing. That's my scare. But in my mind, I would have laughed seeing you doing this. Yani naturally, my natural reaction would be not to be angry. My anger came, or my reaction came from that I felt it was irresponsible. Not because it was like not funny or was like something I can't laugh about. So yeah, don't misunderstand me. I'm not in that way that I would look to something like this and would say, yeah, oh my God, that's like how dare it? No, it was for me like already the kind of retreats that we were doing were different, and we were ahead in the idea of trying to bring people together, graduates, and to meet and to يعني it didn't need somebody to go and ruin it for us like after that and saying, did you know what happened that retreat, this person did? So in my mind is not actually your action, it's what's going to happen after that.
And actually, just to be fair, the bishop that was sitting next to you, he was actually very nice with me.
Yes.
And we like he to this day he sees me and like he looks at me and like he started like I think that's what he remembers, and he starts like laughing to himself on the inside. And he didn't really give me a hard time at all. Like I walked over.
I don't know why I remember it was a song for James Brown.
No, that's the. Do you see how الناس بتتكلم وبيبوظوا سمعتنا يا ابونا? Like, do you see what happens? Like, they just say things because it makes it a funnier story. But I can remember the song, like, and I remember how I was playing, and like I was playing with the beat, and every time the song comes on, I'm like, that was the song. I love that song. So yeah, so the bishop didn't really give me a hard time. He just said, it's just that it's an ecclesiastical instrument. And I said, Yes.
He's a very,
Yes, it is.
I love this guy. So he's a
And
great
he's
bishop
like, you
also. And
understand? I'm like, yes, I understand, Sayyid. He goes, okay. That was it. That was the whole conversation.
mm,
So yeah, I think, I mean, again, this is a stress for all of us that, like, you know, and I do this with my own kids and the Sunday school kids, where like you try not to overreact and you try to say, Meshi, I understand where they're coming from, but you know, there's consequences to this. So we need to educate on the consequences, and you know, for a community, and like I said, sometimes the hardest thing is it's somebody that I don't know, and somebody that doesn't know that, you know, I love them, I care about them, I want them to be in the church. I don't want to give them a hard time, but like, please just like, just so somebody else doesn't see this and see you breaking the rules, and then it's okay, and then all they want is, you know, complete hesa. So it's challenging. And you know, going back to the previous example of, you know, sometimes someone comes in already charged up and melian, and you know, I deal with this sometimes with parents who have kids that are special needs. It's really hard. Like they want to come and cut the line, and I'm like, معلش, I'm sorry, like you can't cut the line, بس الواد مش عارف ايه وبيزعق. I know, I'm so sorry, come talk to me outside, let's, you know, بالراحة كده شوية. وانا كلمت ابونا وابونا قال ومش عارف. And it's very, very hard. And then somebody who really doesn't need and this person deserves an exception, like they should be allowed to go ahead. But someone else who doesn't need an exception at all, you know, معاه ميعاد ولازم يروح مش عارف ايه, and then they cut the line, and then you see them like 10 minutes later in the parking lot, and you're like, مش كان معاك ميعاد يعني في ايه? So I think it's hard to be in a community, and it's hard to figure out what to do. But I think it's helpful what you're saying, to say, you know, we need to keep our priorities straight. Yes, there are things that are, like you call them, the details of the details, and then there's the details, but then there's things that are more important than the details and the details of the details.
yes,
So this is where I'm going to use this gift that I got from Abouna Sam. Do you see this? So he
yes.
gave me these very nice mustache cufflinks, because your episode is going to be the last day of Movember. So
Okay.
this video is going to be posted on Monday, November 30. So for the last time this month, and you know, God willing, the program will continue in the future, but less frequently, because I can't do this. I can't keep doing this every day. But for the last time in Movember 2020, I must ask you something. I'd love to hear from you a plan for the next, pick the number of years, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, for our church to follow, so that we can get it straight and figure out, we're not going to forget about the details of the details or the details, but how do we get people back to this core message?
The plan is difficult, Mila. Why it's difficult? Because first step, it has to come from the leaders themselves, convinced that we need a plan. And not everyone is the same. Some people think their plan is the best plan. Even the no plan is the best plan. Honestly, and I am old enough now to understand different things, not like before. Like things that are different than what I think are not anymore bothering me. Because amazingly, things that doesn't make sense even to me, they might be working for others. They might be working perfectly for some other people. I don't know how, but it works. So to have a plan, even the idea of me saying a plan is not very comfortable to me, but I'll try to answer the question. So number one, that the leaders need to agree that there is something wrong. And the first step to change anything is to realize that there is something that needs to be changed. realization is the first step. So I don't know how easy this step is going to be. Number two, you need not only leaders who realize that we need to do something, you need leaders who are willing to be flexible. Yani, if they have been doing things for so long, they're at least willing to discuss if these things can be modified. For me, in the application of the plan, number one is going to be always focusing on the core. The shortest line that would lead you to the core. Like, we have to keep focusing on Christ. In everything we do, in every lecture, in every activity, in everything we plan for, our goal that people would be in Christ and would reflect the figure of Christ in their practical life. For me, it's very clear and easy. People accept Christ, then this is reflected on their daily life and their behavior. If this is lost or this is lost, that's failure to me. I'm not saying we're going to be perfect. We're going to still do a lot of mistakes. Don't misunderstand me, but at least we keep revising ourselves toward that direction, receiving Christ and giving Christ. So we need to use all the tools that we are using toward that goal. In Sunday school, in sermons, in the way we serve, in what we're expecting from the people, everything. Then comes number two, that we're going to do that in an orthodox way. That comes number three, how to benefit from the heritage of the Coptic Church in this. For me, it is a clear arrangement. It's not confusing. And I always ask the youth in the youth meeting that question. If you want to describe yourself, that you're Christian and you're Coptic and you're Orthodox, how you put them in order. It's very, very important to be clear about that. Not because I want you to like one of them. I don't want you to like any of the three. Be sure of that. But still, there is an order. Because if you don't have one, number two is not going to be right even if you have it, and number three is definitely going to be wrong even if you have it. Like, if you're not in Christ, then orthodoxy becomes it becomes useless. It becomes like use it against, not for the sake of. And then Copting becomes like a museum. To be in Christ means that your orthodoxy is a lively orthodoxy. It's full of spirit. And your Coptic heritage, you're very well understanding what to take and how to apply. So, this is my simple thing. And if there is number four, I would say after that, be very flexible using the tools that are going to work with the time being, with the mentality, with the psychology, with what's going around. Don't be stubborn. Don't waste time. It's enough. You cannot waste more time. There is no need again to discuss the details of the details when it comes. This is not the way we used to do it. How can we do this? It's never one used it before. Whatever it is, use all the tools that you can use to convey the message that Christ is the center, Orthodoxy is the direction, Coptic is the heritage or the history. Make it the core of your sermon, make it the core of why you have pre-servants, make it the core of, then build on it all the other things that you want to do. The dogma, the theology, the fathers, and I know that some people, they don't differentiate between things. They want to take it all as one package, but it's too heavy of a package that usually fails. If you don't put it 1, 2, 3, and you give it as one block, it doesn't work.
So what if someone says, I don't agree, I think that um, we should not be conformed to this world, but we should say, this is the way that we are. This is the way that we've always been. And they use that as kind of a badge of honor, where it's
Look,
not.
one of the things, Amina, that I've been, as you know, that I've been reading for the last 5 years in my life is philosophy, and it's you learn a lot. And one of the sayings that really, يعني, made tons of difference with me. And yeah, it's Voltaire, but actually it's not only Voltaire. It came even before that, much longer than that. If you want to talk to me, define your terms. Like he had a big sign before his office saying, if you want to come and meet with me and talk, be ready to define your terms. Don't say big things that you don't even know what you're saying. Like, what is it exactly that you're defending? Let me talk about it in details. If you're defining believing in Christ, we agree. If you define like the dogma and theology, we agree. If everything, we agree. I'm not going to say you with anything that has to do with the core, with Christ and with the orthodoxy or with the Hajj. I'm saying application. How you apply it. How would you apply? To say I'm not going to change anything, I'm sorry to say this is a very, very يعني, superficial statement. Because if you don't notice, we already have been changing all the time. You're not the same as a priest 100 years ago. You're not the same as somebody who was serving 300 years ago. You're in shape, in language, in everything. Even the liturgy is so different than liturgy from 50 years. I'm not saying in the content, the way we say it, the way we sing it, the way we do things. So it's already changing. But all I'm asking you now is, if you were changing things on the speed of 20 miles per hour, please go to 60, because 20 now doesn't work. Because everything around you is moving 60. You cannot move. You put more effort to move 60 like you were moving before. It's not like against what you were moving before. Yeah, there is no need. I remember in 19, yeah, some of the things I went through, we had a youth meeting that was the first college meeting in Egypt to have boys and girls mixed. That was 1976. Imagine, 1976, that was the first time. Till that
Really?
time, till that time, college meeting, of course, high school and everything was separate, and even college was separate. So we started that meeting, and there was an Abouna who used, like the meeting was on Friday, then Abouna on Sunday will take the mic and say, don't let your children come to that meeting. This meeting is not orthodox because they are boys and girls together and they come to meet, and this is against the church. And he kept throwing things. Okay. And we used to run to Amba Musa. He was just a new bishop for the youth, and he would call Abuna, معلش عشان خاطري دول ولاد كويسين, let them do the meeting. The next Friday, Abuna will pass by and he sees the boys are going to get angry, and he couldn't hold himself. So Sunday he will close the meeting. Thursday he will take the permission from Amba Musa, and it took like years and years of struggle. And I keep asking myself, so what happened after that? All the meetings are mixed. Yeah, it took years for something that shouldn't have taken that long. The first time we used an instrument in that meeting for the hymns, oh my God, it was like, again, and you're labeled as not Orthodox, you're labeled as Protestant, you're labeled as whatever, which has, again, defined your terms. You're talking wrong. This has nothing to do with this. You're mixing things. So I'm saying we moved slow. But do you think now, in the land of immigration, which is not the land of immigration for people living here, it's the land of immigration for the people in Egypt, for here, in our country here, can we, with the speed of things going around, do you think we can afford to go on 20 miles now? Do you think we can struggle 3 years for people to accept things that I'm sure they're going to accept in 5 years? So again, the plan is the plan, the core, as I said, the things like this. But if there is another point in the plan, it would be change the way you think about things quickly. If you're going to go to it in 5 years, go to it in 5 months. Because these small things, which in your mind are not important, in the mind of the young people now is like very important. If you're going to reach a point in 10 years and it's going to be accepted in 10 years, I think put more effort now to accept it in 6 months or a year than wasting 10 years and at the end you're going to do it. Especially, and it's wrong. It's not wrong. I'm not saying accept wrong things or things against the teachings. Not at all. Details, methods, more than, it has nothing to do with core teachings. It has nothing to do with the core Christian, Orthodox, Coptic core things.
Can we talk about an example, or is that going to be too controversial?
As I gave you the example of the mixed meeting in the 70s and 60s, that's
no, like a current example.
I think you're going to lead me to problems. So I think I'm already in problems. So, I always know the good thing about the white hair now is like, people give you, عجزت مش ما كنتش قصدي. I didn't mean what I said. I think I was.
I'm getting there. I'm not quite there.
Hypoglycemia. Did I really say that? So it's.
So listen, I'll bring up an example. I'll bring up an example, and you tell me no, I don't feel comfortable talking about this. But I didn't expect to share my own opinion on these interviews as much as I think I unfortunately have. Like, it just, I can't help myself, and like, somebody says something and I'm like, excited about it. And I was talking to Yusuf Hanna, he was here for college in Boston, and he went back to Canada, and he's a pharmacist now in Canada. And great guy, very, very thoughtful, very committed to the church. We had like a nice conversation about Coptic culture and how to modernize Coptic culture, and how the church has given us this gift of preserving Coptic culture, and there's so much more potential. And we were talking about our worship, and we were talking about how there's a lot more room for flexibility in our worship, in that there's a Coptic spirituality that needs to be sort of brought into the 21st century, and in a way that we honor that history and honor that mysticism, but is still like some of these hymns were written 500, 300 years ago. So there's nothing wrong with us continuing to write more hymns in the Coptic tradition. And I left it open-ended to him. I said, what else can we do? And he got into a conversation, which surprised me, about the role of women in the church and the role of women in worship. And I said, and I think this falls into a category of the details, like you say, where if we're not talking about the altar, we're not talking about ordaining priests or giving communion, we're just talking about like the little boys standing with little girls, and the chorus, boys singing, girls singing also. So it seems like this is something, like you're saying, is going to be accepted after 10 years. So why not tomorrow?
Again, that's preparing. If you said how to prepare for the future, this is part of the program to prepare for the future, that we need to be thinking in a different way. We cannot waste time on these issues. I just sometimes, it's again like thinking. When Christianity came out of Palestine and went into different regions, into Egypt, into Greece, I don't know how people then were flexible to accept the culture. Like, yani, I can't understand that now we're not flexible. When people then were flexible, they didn't say you have to speak the language of Christ. And if there is one holy, if, and there's no, but if holy language, it would be the language that Christ was speaking. If there is a different, if there is a holy kind of music, it would be the music that the Jews were using, which Christ used himself when he was praying in the temple. So, but they went to Greece and they had no problem of people singing the songs in the Greek way, or going to Egypt and using the metals, the symbols and the triangle, and using the same music that was used in the temple for other religions before Christianity. And even changing just the words and keeping the rhythm. Nobody said at that time, oh my God, this is, I don't understand. I think we need teaching. We need to be taught these simple things, which is, nobody is asking you to remove your history or heritage. But did you even ask yourself, like, if you're now Egyptian American, your children are going to be American Egyptian. Their children are going to be American Egyptian. Their grandchildren is going to be American Egyptian. So why should I impose on them culture? I should impose on them faith, which again is the core. Direction, which is the orthodoxy. Coptic as the heritage, the source from where I got what I'm here now. But to enforce culture, it never happened. Like, nobody tried to enforce on the Greeks the culture of the Jews. Nobody did that with the Rome. Nobody did that with Alexandria, because they were so busy with the core. You know why? Because they were so focused on the core. We need, the problem again, we put everything in one bag. Christ with the tradition, with the culture, with even the foods, with everything that's Egyptian and Coptic and around it, and all the things, we put them all in one bag and either take it or refuse it all. But it should be number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. And I would say the first 3 are very important, but they have to be in order. Even the first 3, which is Christian, Orthodox, Coptic, very important. I can say, like, even it's a must, but in order. Other things, let's sit and talk. Let's sit and talk. Like, there is no holy instrument, there is no holy tone, there is no holy lips. It's all changeable. You go to Africa, women would wear something, or Europe, they wear something. There is no. People in the church have to be like this, and you give them, whose picture is that you want to enforce on? Is it the old Egyptian, or the Arab era in Egypt, or the modern Egypt, or this Egypt in the 60s, or Egypt today? Which one? Because every one of them, the culture is changing. The culture and evolves, and it keeps changing. The speed of the tone of the music is changing. So these are the things, I think we're wasting a lot of energy on things that are not even important. Or maybe they are sentimental to some people. Okay, I understand. But where is the goal now? The goal is that my grandchild will be attending the church, or the goal is I would die if you change, if you make it faster, or you make it slow, or you make it more condensed or more focused. So you have to choose. You can't put it all as one package. I think this is the challenge. But again, you're talking about changing a mentality that we as leaders, or the leaders, sit together and they see things. And one of the things that I have really to say, that meeting with the Pope Tadros for a few times, and يعني he surprises me that well, it shouldn't be a surprise, but he's very open to understanding these kinds of issues. But again, it's like me in my parish, him as for all. He cannot run ahead of the group. You don't want to divide the group. You don't want to break the unity. So you have to put in consideration that some people are not going to be with you. So you have to move slower, even if things are clear in your mind where they are heading to, from the wisdom and point of view. And because you care about all, sometimes you need to be slow. And slow actually was safe for the Coptic Church in history. But in history, it was never as fast as it is now. So slow kept you when you were in one area, one country, and everything around you is slow. I think it's a different dynamic. It needs a different strategy. But again, I know my limits. I know my responsibility and my limits. And we're talking, but I won't say I regret that I talked about these issues, but who am I? Who am I? It's not in my limit to think even how to change these things.
But you may be partially correct. You may be completely wrong. I mean, I happen to agree with what you're saying. Maybe we're both wrong. Maybe we're both partially correct. But something that Azar Stavros said that I thought was really helpful is that we can't be afraid to say something. Where, listen, like we're initiating a dialogue. This is a suggestion. This is a draft on a napkin. What do you think? No, throw it away. Okay. Enough people bring the same napkin with the same. على فكرة ممكن نفكر فيها دي. So it's worth having the conversation, and it's worth trying to say, not with a spirit of certainty and not with a conviction that this is what we're demanding, but just to say, hey, have we considered this? Because it doesn't seem like we're meeting our goals.
I just want to make it, I want to make it clear to all people who are going to listen to this. Please differentiate between the core and what's not core. Because no one is even coming close to thinking about changing anything in the core. So take it easy. Take a deep breath, all people, and take it easy, and please listen and try. What are we talking about? We're not talking about sacraments. We're not talking about dogmas. We're not talking about faith. We're talking about application. Like St. Paul said, for the Jew, I was a Jew. For the Greek, I was a Greek. For everyone, I was everything, so that in every way I can win somebody to Christ. It's that exactly. It didn't mean that he's going to be atheist for the atheist. But if this atheist is logical, I'm going to talk to him in a logical way. So take it easy. I think we're too tense about things sometimes that they just need calmness and prayers and being ready to listen.
So I appreciate that you gave us a nice summary and a nice closing. Most people, I end with asking them for some parting words of wisdom, but you did that already. So instead, I'm going to explain why I'm laughing when you say take it easy. And I want you to give the listeners, watchers, a number, just a rough estimate, just the number of zeros of the number of times you've told me to take it easy in the last 28 years. Like, is it 10? Is it 100? Is it 1,000? Is it 10,000? Like, what's the rough number?
Oh, I can't put a number. Very difficult.
I'm gonna say at least 3, maybe 4 zeros.
Yeah, maybe.
At least.
But you know what? I mean, يعني برضو I see you throughout the years, and I think you're gonna be surprised how you're gonna change things by time. It's not because the age makes a lot of difference. The experience in life makes a lot of difference. Only really, يعني, I have to choose the nice word. I want to say foolish, but stubborn or foolish. Don't change. Like changing is normal. يعني stone don't change. But as long as you're living, you learn and you change and you start to see things. To be stubborn to that, thinking, oh, we haven't changed at all since like 20 years. This is not a plus. If we're proud that we didn't change, you have also defined your word, didn't change in what? Because there are things that have to change. So I think I'm going to say it less and less to you.
Listen, I'm
hoping for the change.
Even in this conversation, like now you're telling me things, I'm like, yeah, no. Why was I so tough? That's no.
Okay.
Take it easy. I'm telling myself, like, you don't even need to say take it easy anymore. I'm like, nah, I need to take it easy. I need to take it easy. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a work in progress.
I when you told me about that interview or that meeting, I thought, how can we just spend even like 15 minutes? And I looked now to the phone. It's like what? How long has it been? An hour or hour and a half?
I don't know. More than an hour.
7 hour and a half. That's too long. Oh my God! I never stayed doing something for that long. You know me very well.
Mabruk ya Abouna, mabruk.
That's almost like the liturgy that I do on Wednesday, hour and a half.
You're taking it easy too. Yeah. All right, Abouna, thank you so much for your love, and your patience, and your encouragement, and your wisdom. And I hope people enjoyed listening to this.
I hope it's not too much for them, and please forgive me if I say anything or I said something that be misunderstood. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Love you, Abouna.